Let's talk about street photography. Now, right off the bat, I should say I am not a street photographer. Normally I do landscapes and wildlife. I like to go out and explore the natural world. But obviously with the restrictions in place, I'm having to adapt and try a new style of photography. And I chose street photography. To be honest, I've always enjoyed looking at street photography. It was one of my early passions and one of the things that inspired me to pursue photography is to see these amazing images created by other people. But it was never something that I thought I could pursue myself. Until a few weeks ago when I finally plucked up the courage and gave it a go for the first time. So I'll put is it this side? I think it's this side. I'll put a card up to that video if you want to watch it. I thought it was a good one, but you be the judge. That was my first time having a go at street photography, and it was a challenge. I had to push myself to give it a go for the first time, and I really enjoyed it. I really felt a sense of satisfaction for finally getting some street photography of my own. But there was one problem that I was having throughout that week, and that was my camera. I kept feeling very self-conscious and very noticeable, and in part it was because of this beast. So this is my normal camera, Canon 1DX Mark II, and it is heavy, it is big, and it is very noticeable. So I felt a bit on display, a bit obvious, and I felt like everyone was watching me, and that sort of put me off creating images. And so I shelved the project. I decided not to pursue street photography anymore at this time. However, while in the shower, as everyone does, I had an idea. I had a big brainwave, and that was to use my vlogging camera. So just give me a second while I switch out, and then I can explain what I'm talking about then. So the camera that I normally use for vlogging, right now I've set up the 1DX2 for this part, is a Panasonic Lumix G80. I chose this because it wasn't too expensive, it's quite lightweight and small, and it just makes my life a bit easier. And it records in 4K, and I really quite like what it can do. The only problem is in dark situations it can be a bit muddy, but it's a compromise. And for such a small little package, I'm really surprised with how good the footage is from it. So my bright idea was to use this camera for street photography instead of my 1DX2. It's a lot smaller, lightweight, less noticeable, and I can even just slot it in my pocket when not in use. And that worked an absolute treat. I'm going to switch back to this camera and continue. So for this little adventure into street photography, I was using this Panasonic Lumix G80 all day, and I went for a walk in the early hours of the morning, and I had a really good time. And so what follows is what happened when I went out exploring, and I hope you enjoy it. I rushed out before breakfast as there was an unexpected and unpredicted snow. Typical. No applications can predict weather accurately anywhere. Everyone was using umbrellas to keep themselves dry, and I thought this would add to my compositions, especially if I could get the snow falling in the shot as well. But by the time I made it to this piazza with trees, the snow had become less visible. I still got a good shot anyway. The next image was a bit of luck. Italians amaze me with what they can do while riding a bicycle, and this next image is an example of that. I can't believe he was riding along holding an umbrella. I would fall off doing that myself, but hey ho. On the way through the city centre, I paused several times for images that didn't work when I came to edit them in post. But I was trying to train my eye to new compositions and opportunities. Landscape and wildlife can be so rigid in what is an acceptable or good photo, whereas street and documentary photography can be a lot freer. It's not about creating an image that is technically perfect. It's not about getting a very accurate and well thought out composition. It's more about capturing emotions. It's more about capturing characters, interactions and circumstances that elicit an emotional response from you as the photographer, but also from your viewer. These emotional responses can just be about thinking about the moment, about the conditions, about what is there, and it's about recording everything around you. There is so much more freedom to documentary and street photography to break the rules in composition and to work in a different way. And that is what I'm enjoying most about this experiment. And I would really suggest that everyone should give this style of photography a go. In particular, I was searching for light. I wanted to create interesting compositions between light and shadow. As I came up into one of the main squares of the city, I was about to get my wish. Now that I had found some decent, interesting light, the next step was for subjects. I quite liked the way that they were moving through those shafts of light coming through the columns. And it's a place that I'm going to go back to on another morning and try out to get some other characters coming through. But moving on, I was becoming more comfortable photographing people, and I was now looking for interesting characters to capture the essence of the street, of the city, of the Italian way of life. The Lumix was a very different camera to the Canon. So to make things less complicated, I kept the ISO on auto and set the aperture to f5.6 for most of the shots. And that way I could just adjust the shutter speed based to the light, based on the highlights in the scene. But in some situations, especially when the subject was moving too fast to get everything as I wanted, I made mistakes. Like in this next shot, it was a little bit overexposed. I wish I could have reacted quicker to reduce my shutter speed to get the right amount of light coming into the camera. But you know, this is part of the fun of street photography. It's reacting to the moment. In contrast to reacting to the light and the moment, I had heard of a technique called fishing. Basically, fishing is where you find good light and a good composition and you scout it. You stay there, you stand and wait for subjects to walk into the shot, into that area of light that you want them to be. And that's why it's called fishing. You're patiently waiting for someone to grab the hook, to walk into the trap. This seemed like the perfect technique for me to try out, and I found a great composition and some wonderful light, and I knew I just had to scout out this position and wait for people to walk through. And I was able to capture an image that I really like, and I would love to know what you think of this one in the comments below. I ended up spending about 15 minutes in a corner of the tower waiting for the right person to walk into the exact spot that I wanted him to. By standing still and waiting patiently, I was able to refine the settings and to capture the detail of the highlights in the brighter part of the image. And with that last image, my morning walk was over and it was time to return home. That was a really fun, fantastic morning walk. I had a wonderful time. I really pushed the boundaries in what I've done before in street photography. I really tried to refine my compositions, my light, and look for a better way of working. As I said at the beginning, right off the bat, I'm no expert in street photography. So I can't give any tips about how to go about street photography. Really, I'm just playing, I'm experimenting, I'm trying something new, and I want to take you along the journey with me into this different genre of photography. You know, with landscapes and wildlife, I can give you tips and go into a bit more depth about how to do stuff. But with this, I'm just trying stuff out. All I can do is just tell you what I am doing for my experiment and my own experiences, and I'm sure there is people out there with a lot more information if you want to get into specifics of street photography. Now, I'm definitely going to continue developing this genre of photography. It's a lot of fun, I must admit. It was really nice to try something new. I would love to hear your thoughts on this whole project of street photography below. Are you a street photographer? Do you normally shoot landscapes and are looking for something new to try? I'm looking forward to some conversation on this one, to be honest. If you've got any experience in street photography and any tips that you want to let me know, please comment below. They would be really greatly appreciated. However, for next week I will be doing a 5 tips video, probably around landscape photography and developing as a landscape photographer, something like that. I've got to get my notes down and organised for that one. So if you've liked today, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. And if you want to see that next tips video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and it's really greatly appreciated. In the meantime, enjoy your photography, whatever you are doing, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.